before my eyes, and I love that about him. He's still a young guy, and, he's growing so much, and his response was, Coach, this just makes the story even better. And that's his response. And that just shows you, what the culture of our program does for our kids. And at the same time, they're not listening to the static. They're just focused on what we got to do to go get better. And then on Saturday, we got to go do it. And I can't wait to go do it. I wish tomorrow was Saturday. I can't wait to go do it. We're not going to backdoor our way into the ACC championship. We're going to go bust the door open Saturday to this ACC championship. And that's our mindset, and that's our goal, and that's what we're going to go do.
Is the task right now for this offense very similar to what the task was all offseason, generating confidence, less perfect play?
I think we got to get back to that. We played kind of free there for a while, and I don't know what's happened to kind of trigger it back to where, you can just tell we're kind of hesitant. And I'm not just talking about quarterback. I'm talking about a lot of areas. We're just kind of hesitant and man, just let it loose. Just run this route the way you run it every day in practice. And then we get out there, and it's not really a lot what the defense is doing. Now, at the time, there is some things that the defense is doing. There were some things that Notre Dame did different, obviously, than they did in film. Again, they got football coaches just like we got. But the weather kind of played – I think the weather kind of played into – because when you go and you watch – if you watch any of the Ohio State-Northwestern game, the weather played into, obviously, some offensive and defensive changes in regards to probably game planning. And then I think the same thing was probably a little bit the case there, to where some of the stuff that they kind of done all season defensively, there were a couple tweaks that that they hadn't showed all year, and I think some of that was just due to the fact of the weather and that type of deal. And then you turn it over to their offensive side, and they grinded it out, and that was again that was great for them and kind of the conditions we were in, and we just gotta find a way to you come to practice and the practice is just been different. Like, our practices don't look the same as the games in the last 2 weeks. And there for a while, the practices were just parlaying right over to Saturday's games. And that's just where we got to get to. And again, I think it's just a lack of confidence. We've and not just with the quarterback, with across the board. And we just got to get that back and get back to being, consistent. We've scored opening drive. We've scored, I think, 6 out of 8 drives. 6 out of 8, opening drives of the game. We've gone down and scored, and we just got to get back to that, to where we're getting off the bus, we're rolling, and then from that point, everybody starts feeding off everybody, and that's the thing that really, the biggest thing that kind of stood out to me as a team on Saturday was we never could get the momentum back. When the defense has kind of been down at times, the offense has picked them up. When the offense has been down at times, the defense has picked them up, and our special teams has just been really consistent. And on Saturday, we get the block punt, it goes for a touchdown, and at some point you're like, all right, we're going to get that momentum back. Defensively, we're going to get it back offensively, and then we'll start feeding off each other. And that was just, for the first time all year, that never happened, and we never got the spark that we needed to kind of change that momentum. Because I truly feel like if we could have, then we're back to that situation that we've been in before, other years, this year, and then at that point we're playing football, and we just never could get over that hump.
Kyle, what would you say the identity of this offense is at this point?
It's a good question. I mean, if you, I think there's different identities at different parts of the season at this point. Right now, I think the identity for us right now is that, we're one play away from being great. We're one play away from being just average, and that's where we are right now. There's been a couple balls that they're thrown uncatchable. If they're thrown catchable, it's a different ball game. There's a couple balls that's been thrown very catchable, and they're not caught. It's a different ball game, and that comes from the receiver room and the tight end room. And then there's a couple plays where, we've handed it off to Shipley or Maffa, and we are one block away, and it looks like it's there, and we get a shoestring tackle based off of one block, And the same thing with Saturday. I mean, we were – first play, we go 8-9 yards. You know, we spit out a screen, we go 8, 9 yards, and what we do? Get it back for holding. And then we turn around and get a holding call 2 plays later. And that's just kind of where we've been the last 2 weeks. We've done an incredible job of protecting the football early in the year. So the narrative early in the year was, man, they're great in the turnover margin and protecting the football. The last 2 weeks, not been the case. And you look across college football in the last 2 weeks, there's a lot of ranked teams that have played really effective on offense and really efficient. And they've turned the ball over in the last 2 weeks and they've got beat. And that's another, you know, that's where we are right now. We can't throw the catchable balls that we need to throw. We can't catch the catchable balls that are being thrown. We're getting penalties when we got positive plays. We lived in 3rd and long this week. We've been great we're 5th in the country in red zone offense, which was a struggle last year. And we've been consistent in that all year in red zone offense. We're 5th in the country, and I think we're like 18th in the country in third down efficiency. And we lived in 3rd and long all night Saturday night, and that's something that we haven't done this year. So I think depending on which part of the season you're looking at is kind of to answer that question is which part of the season. Right now, we're very average offense, very average, and we're average at all positions. But I will say this, we're very average in all positions right now, but we have greatness in all the positions too. And we are just one play away because we've already seen it. It's not like I'm sitting here saying, hey, we're one play away. Remember 3 years ago when we did it? Let's go. I mean, did y'all come to Wake Forest? Everybody came to Wake Forest game? Okay. I mean, we were pretty good offensively that night, you know. That wasn't too long ago. So, I mean, we have these you know, pockets of greatness. We just got to put it back together. And, again, we got to keep things into perspective, too. And, it's been a bad 2 nights. We've had 2 bad nights, and it just happens to be the last 2 games. And we'll get it turned.
How do you kind of marry Coach Sweeney says that you need to get DJ just to be able to turn it loose sometimes. Hey, don't be afraid to go make a play. But then you have what I guess was maybe an option route where he threw the pick 6 there. And
Yeah.
Somebody made a wrong read. You go, okay, so now I've made a mistake. How do you kind of say, hey, turn it loose, but still don't make mistakes?
Yeah, it's tough, you know, from, you know, a quarterback standpoint and coaching quarterbacks. I've coached quarterbacks for a long time, and it's a really tough, obviously it's a tough position to play, and it's a tough position physically, but mentally it's tougher than any position. So there's a fine line there where you're not in his head too much and you're not predetermining how to throw balls and the reads that have to be made, because you can't do that at quarterback. You got to see what's happening live, and you got to see it post-snap. But he's just got to, you know, he's got to trust, and that's probably the biggest thing. He's got to trust himself. He's got to trust what he does at practice every day, because if he wasn't the guy, he wouldn't be playing. He wouldn't be at this level. He wouldn't be at Clemson. He wouldn't have gone to Notre Dame, you know, 2 years ago and did what he did then. You know, he can do it. He's just got to go. He's got to trust himself. He's got to trust his reads. He's got to trust his coaching. And like I said, he's one of the greatest, if not the greatest kids I've ever been around. And he's one of the hardest workers, if not the hardest worker I've ever been around. There's not one person in this building, there's not one player, there's not one coach that will say something negative on or off the field about DJ. But with that personality, he brings a lot of pressure to himself. And he's a perfectionist. And those type of things you got to find, like I said, it's a fine line. You got to find a way to kind of work through those things. But, you know, I would just say trust, man. You got it. Like, you got it. Just go do it. And he can, and he will. And we got to help him as coaches, you know. I think at times you can't live in a fast-paced offense, as in running every play. Trust me, I love tempo, but you can't live every play like that. And for him, I think he does a little bit better when he is playing a little bit faster, because there's not as much thinking. Defense can't do as much, all right? So for us, you know, maybe we play a little bit faster at times, and that's kind of what you saw at the end of the game there. You know, the flip side of it is when as much pressure on you at the end of the game when you're just kind of out there tossing it around, and it's a blowout at that point, you know. So again, there's a fine line there, but we can, as coaches at any position that we're at, including the quarterback position, we have to find a way to highlight their strengths and hide the weaknesses, and that's what we're working on every week in this building. And I think maybe tweaking some things there and just saying, hey, play a little faster, play a little more free, and let's see what goes from there. But again, you can't just line up and do that every snap either. That's not football either. So we'll have to figure it out. But we got a good plan moving forward.
Is DJ running also integral to that sort of generating that looseness that you're talking about?
Yeah, I think we just the last 2 weeks he hasn't ran as much, and again, it's not from a we're calling the same plays that we've called all year in some capacity. It just hasn't worked out to where he's gotten loose the way he kind of has. And then there at the end, he did, and look what happens. He turned, it's a big play. But again, we just got to go back and make sure that, we're putting everybody in some of the times that we put the situation where, it's a quarterback run, there's still pass tags, attached to it. And they give you a wide open pass and you throw it out there, Like I said, there was a couple plays on Saturday where, he's probably going to end up running the football, but they left a wide open, tight end running a flat route. Well, take the tight end on the flat route. But then we get a holding call, or we get this, or we just couldn't. The last 2 weeks we just haven't been able to piece it all together. But we got to get him going more in the run game. Shipley